If your soul feels restless tonight, you are welcome here. You don't need to carry everything right now, not in this sacred moment. Just breathe gently and let the burdens of today begin to fall away. Here in this stillness, you are held. The Lord sees your weariness. He knows the questions that have been weighing on your heart, and He is nearer to you than the air you breathe. Let the chaos of the world grow distant, and let your spirit find shelter in His presence. I invite you to press the subscribe button right now. Do not see this as a mere technical step, but as a gesture of faith, a gentle whisper to the Lord, "Lord, I open my heart. Come and protect my spirit and watch over my sleep." By choosing to walk with divine rest, you are allowing His word to envelop your room and soothe your mind every single night. Do not let tomorrow be another night of restless anxiety. Subscribe now. Let the love of Jesus heal your wounds and grant you the true rest you deserve tonight. Tonight, we step into the book of Joel, a solemn yet hopeful story for anyone who feels shaken by sudden change, loss, or events that feel beyond their control. If you have been lying awake sensing that the world feels fragile, uncertain, or unpredictable, this book is meant for you. Joel speaks to moments when familiar ground feels unstable and the future feels unclear. It gently reminds us that even in times of disruption, God remains attentive, present, and ready to restore what feels stripped away. It opens in a land marked by devastation, where silence follows loss and people wonder how to move forward. Yet Joel reveals that God does not abandon His people in seasons of emptiness, but invites them closer, promising renewal after hardship. As you listen tonight, allow this story to calm the fears that echo in your thoughts and soften the tension held in your body. In the shelter of His presence, God turns anxiety into reassurance and uncertainty into quiet trust, reminding you that even after the longest night, restoration comes, and you are safe to rest until morning. The word of the Lord that came to Joel, the son of Pethuel. Hear this, you elders, give ear, all inhabitants of the land. Has such a thing happened in your days, or in the days of your fathers? Let your breathing become gentle and slow now, beloved, as we enter together into the book of Joel. This is a prophet whose very name means, "The Lord is God." And he comes to us with words that are both sobering and deeply tender, that describe devastation, but always with the voice of one who knows that beyond the devastation lies restoration, that after the stripping away comes the filling up, that God allows emptiness only so that He might pour in fullness that could not fit while we were already full of other things. Hear this, you elders, give ear, all inhabitants of the land. These are not harsh commands, dear friend, but urgent invitations, the kind of plea that comes from someone who sees danger approaching and loves the people too much to let them remain unaware. Hear this. Listen. Pay attention. Not because you are being scolded, but because something important is being said, something that matters for your life, something you need to know. Has such a thing happened in your days, or in the days of your fathers? God is asking them to search their memories, to think back through all they have experienced and all they have heard from previous generations. And the implied answer is no. Beloved, this has not happened before. What is about to be described is unprecedented, unique, beyond anything that has come before. And there is something significant in that. Dear one, when God allows something that has never happened before, when devastation comes on a scale that exceeds all previous experience, it is not random. It is not accidental. It means something. It is trying to say something that could not be said any other way. Tell your children of it, and let your children tell their children, and their children to another generation. Tell your children, beloved. Let this story be passed down. Let it become part of the family memory. Let generation after generation know what happened here. Not to traumatize them, not to fill them with fear, but so that they might learn what their ancestors learned, so that they might understand what this devastation taught, so that they might carry forward the wisdom that comes only through walking through loss and discovering on the other side that God was present all along, that His purposes were at work even in the stripping away, that what looked like ending was actually preparation for new beginning. Can you feel the weight of this instruction? Dear friend, that the story matters enough to be told to children, to grandchildren, to great-grandchildren, that what happens in this moment has implications that stretch across generations, that the lessons learned here are too important to be forgotten, too precious to be lost, too necessary for future flourishing to be allowed to fade from memory. What the cutting locust left, the swarming locust has eaten. What the swarming locust left, the devouring locust has eaten. And what the devouring locust left, the destroying locust has eaten. Let your body soften now, beloved, as we sit with this image of complete devastation. 4 kinds of locusts, 4 waves of destruction, 4 stages of stripping away until nothing remains. The cutting locust comes first and takes what it takes, and then what it left behind. The swarming locust devours, and then, from the remnant that somehow survived the first 2 waves, the devouring locust feeds. And finally, whatever managed to remain after all of that, the destroying locust finishes off. This is total loss. Dear one, not partial damage that can be repaired. not setback that can be overcome, but complete devastation, wave after wave, until the land that was once green and abundant and full of life is stripped bare, left empty, reduced to nothing. And Joel is describing this not to frighten, but to help us see with our hearts and not just our eyes, to understand that sometimes what looks like natural disaster is actually spiritual communication, that God allows the stripping away of what we have been clinging to because what we have been clinging to has been keeping us from clinging to Him. The locusts are real, beloved. The devastation is actual. The fields are truly empty. The vines are genuinely stripped. The trees are authentically bare. But underneath the natural disaster is a spiritual reality, a divine intention, a loving purpose that is using even this terrible thing to wake people up, to help them see what they could not see while they were comfortable, to create the emptiness that must exist before true fullness can come. Has your life felt like this? Dear friend, like wave after wave of loss, like devastation that comes and then comes again, like being stripped down to nothing with no energy left to rebuild. Let your breathing slow even more as you recognize that if you are in this place, if you have experienced this kind of total stripping away, you are not being punished. You are being prepared. God is not angry with you. He is making space in you for something new, something that could not fit while you were still full of what the locusts have now carried away. Awake, you drunkards, and weep and wail, all you drinkers of wine, because of the sweet wine, for it is cut off from your mouth. Awake, beloved. This is not shouted but spoken with the urgency of love, with the intensity of someone who sees danger and cannot bear to watch you sleep through it. You drunkards, you drinkers of wine, wake up from your stupor. Open your eyes to what is happening. Let the fog clear from your mind long enough to see that what you have been drinking, what you have been using to numb yourself and make yourself feel better, has been cut off. The sweet wine is gone. The thing you have been depending on for comfort, for escape, for relief from the weight of existence, it is no longer available. And notice, dear friend, that this call to awaken is also a permission to weep and wail. God is not saying wake up and be strong, wake up and handle it, wake up and pretend you are fine. He is saying wake up and weep, wake up and wail. Wake up and let yourself feel the full weight of what has been lost. Because sometimes we cannot begin to heal until we first acknowledge how much it hurts. Cannot start to move forward until we stop long enough to grieve what is behind. Cannot receive comfort until we admit we need comforting. For a nation has come up against my land, powerful and beyond number. Its teeth are lion's teeth. and it has the fangs of a lioness. A nation has come up against my land. Notice God calls it my land, beloved, not their land, not Israel's land, but my land. Even in the devastation, even in the describing of destruction, God is reminding them and reminding us that the land belongs to Him, that what is being stripped still matters to Him, that He has not abandoned what is His even when He has allowed it to be invaded. The nation is powerful and beyond number. Dear one, this is not a small inconvenience or a minor setback. This is overwhelming force, an enemy too numerous to count, destruction on a scale that makes resistance seem futile. And it has lion's teeth, the fangs of a lioness. It tears, it rips, it devours with strength that cannot be opposed, with ferocity that cannot be stopped. But even in this description of power, beloved, there is an invitation. Because when the enemy is this strong, when the devastation is this complete, when our own resources are this inadequate to the threat we face, then we are finally driven to the only place where help actually exists. We are finally stripped of the illusion that we can manage on our own. We are finally empty enough to cry out for the help we have needed all along, but were too full of ourselves to ask for. It has laid waste my vine and splintered my fig tree. It has stripped off their bark and thrown it down. Their branches are made white. The vine is laid waste. Dear friend, the fig tree is splintered. The bark is stripped off and thrown down, and the branches that should be covered with leaves and heavy with fruit are made white, exposed, vulnerable, bare. This is the picture of complete stripping, of everything that was covering being removed, everything that was decorative being taken away, everything that made the tree look alive and healthy being torn off until only the white wood remains. Let your shoulders drop now, beloved, as you consider whether you have felt this way, whether life has stripped you down until you feel bare, exposed, with nothing left to cover yourself, nothing remaining to make you look like you are flourishing. And if you are in this place, if you recognize yourself in the image of branches made white, then hear this with your deepest heart. The stripping is not the end. The bareness is not permanent. God is removing what was false so that what is true can finally grow, is taking away what was just for show so that what has substance can emerge. Let your breathing become very slow now. Dear one, as you feel the invitation in these words to wake up, to see clearly, to stop numbing yourself with whatever sweet wine you have been drinking, to acknowledge the devastation rather than pretending it is not there. This waking up is hard. This seeing clearly is painful. But it is also the first step toward healing, the beginning of restoration, the necessary acknowledgement that must happen before God can do what only He can do. Lament like a virgin wearing sackcloth for the bridegroom of her youth. Lament, beloved. Not just feel sad privately, not just acknowledge quietly that something is wrong, but lament, mourn, express the grief, wear sackcloth, let the pain be visible, let the sorrow be spoken, let the loss be acknowledged publicly and honestly, like a virgin, a young bride who was preparing for her wedding, who had her whole life planned, who knew whom she would marry and was counting the days until the celebration. And then the bridegroom dies. The future that was so certain is suddenly gone. The life that was beginning is over before it started. The love that was about to be consummated is cut off before it could even be expressed. This is the depth of grief God is calling for. Dear friend, not polite sadness, not measured response, not controlled emotion, but the kind of mourning that comes when something precious is lost, when the future you were counting on disappears, when what you loved is taken away, and all that remains is emptiness and questions, and the sackcloth that says to everyone who sees you that you are in mourning, that you have suffered loss, that you need comfort and space and time to grieve. The grain offering and the drink offering are cut off from the house of the Lord. The priests mourn, the ministers of the Lord. Even the offerings are cut off. Beloved, even the grain and the drink that were supposed to be brought to the house of the Lord, that were meant to be offered on the altar, that were the normal way of expressing worship and gratitude and devotion, these are no longer available. The fields have been stripped. The vines have been destroyed. There is nothing left to bring, nothing remaining to offer, and the priests mourn. The ministers of the Lord grieve, not just for themselves, but for the people who can no longer bring their offerings, for the worship that can no longer be expressed in the usual ways, for the emptiness where abundance used to be. Can you feel the tenderness in this? Dear one, that even when the offerings are cut off, even when there is nothing left to bring, the mourning itself becomes an offering. The grief itself becomes worship. The honest acknowledgement of loss becomes more precious to God than all the grain and drink we could bring when we are pretending to be full while our hearts are empty. The fields are destroyed. The ground mourns, for the grain is destroyed. The wine dries up. The oil languishes. The fields are destroyed. Beloved, the ground itself mourns. This is not just human loss, but creation itself grieving. The earth lamenting what has happened to it. The land expressing sorrow that it can no longer produce, that it can no longer yield. that it has been stripped of its capacity to give life. The grain is destroyed. The wine dries up. The oil languishes. Everything that sustains, everything that brings joy, everything that was used for anointing and healing and celebration, all of it is gone. Let your body settle deeper now, dear friend, as you recognize that sometimes the devastation in our external circumstances reflects devastation in our internal landscape. That when the fields are destroyed, it often means our hearts feel destroyed. That when the ground mourns, it is because our souls are mourning. That the dryness outside mirrors the dryness inside. Be ashamed, O tillers of the soil, wail, O vine dressers, for the wheat and the barley, because the harvest of the field has perished. Be ashamed, beloved, not because you did something wrong, but because what you worked for has come to nothing, because what you invested yourself in has been destroyed, because all your labor has produced no harvest, because you are tillers of soil that will not yield, and vine dressers of vines that will not produce. Wail for the wheat and the barley. Grieve for the harvest that has perished. Let yourself feel the full weight of what it means to work and see no fruit, to labor and have nothing to show for it, to give your best effort and watch it all disappear. The vine dries up, the fig tree languishes. Pomegranate, palm, and apple, all the trees of the field are dried up, and gladness dries up from the children of man. Everything that was supposed to bring joy has withered, dear one. The vine, the fig tree, the pomegranate, the palm, the apple, all the trees that were meant to produce fruit and shade and beauty, they are dried up. And notice what happens when these dry up gladness dries up from the children of man, when the external sources of joy disappear, when what we have been counting on for happiness is taken away, when what made life feel worth living is stripped from us. Then gladness itself dries up, joy evaporates, delight disappears, and we are left in the bareness wondering if we will ever feel truly alive again. Let your breathing slow to almost nothing now, beloved, as we sit in this place of complete loss, of total bareness, of gladness dried up. If you are here tonight, if your fields feel destroyed and your ground is mourning and your gladness has dried up, then know this, you are not alone. God sees. He knows. He understands. And He has allowed this stripping not because He delights in your pain, but because underneath what has been taken away is something more precious than anything that was lost, something that could not be discovered while you were still full, something that can only be found in the emptiness. The land mourns, dear friend, and so does your soul. And that mourning, that honest acknowledgement of devastation, that willingness to lament like a bride who has lost her bridegroom, this is not weakness. This is wisdom. This is the beginning of healing. This is the first step on the journey back to gladness that will be deeper and more real than any gladness you have known before, because it will be rooted not in what the fields produce, but in who God is, not in what you have, but in whose you are, not in the abundance of harvest, but in the steadfast love that remains when every harvest has failed. Rest now in this truth. Beloved, your devastation is seen, your mourning is heard. Your dried up gladness matters to the one who made you for joy and will, in his time and in his way. Restore to you what the locusts have eaten, what the waves of destruction have carried away, what the stripping has removed. But first, this night, simply rest in the permission to lament, to mourn, to acknowledge the loss. Tomorrow will bring its own mercies. But tonight, it is enough to be honest, to be bare, to let God hold you in the emptiness and whisper that He has not forgotten you, that He has not abandoned you, that even now He is working toward the restoration that is coming. Amen. Put on sackcloth and lament, you priests. Wail, you ministers of the altar. Go in, pass the night in sackcloth. You ministers of my God, for the grain offering and the drink offering are withheld from the house of your God. Let your breathing become gentle as a whisper now. Beloved, as we hear this tender invitation disguised as command, put on sackcloth and lament, you priests. These are the spiritual leaders, the ones who are supposed to be strong, who are meant to hold everything together, who others look to for stability and guidance. And God says to them, stop pretending you are fine. Stop maintaining the appearance of having it all together. Put on sackcloth, the rough garment of mourning that says to everyone who sees you that you are grieving, that you have suffered loss, that you need comfort just as much as anyone else. Wail, you ministers of the altar. Not pray quietly, not maintain composure, not keep up appearances, but wail. Let the sound of grief come out. Let the pain be expressed. Let the brokenness be visible. Because sometimes the most important thing spiritual leaders can do is model honest sorrow, is show that it is safe to mourn, is demonstrate that coming before God does not require us to pretend we are stronger than we are or more together than we feel. Go in, pass the night in sackcloth, you ministers of my God. Spend the whole night in this posture of mourning. Beloved, do not just acknowledge the grief and then move on. Do not just touch the sorrow and then return to business as usual, but pass the night. Stay in the place of honest brokenness long enough for something real to happen, long enough for the grief to do its work, long enough for the mourning to accomplish what only mourning can accomplish. Can you feel the permission in these words? Dear friend, that you do not have to be strong tonight, that you do not have to hold it together, that you can put on sackcloth and pass the night in the place of honest grief. And this is not weakness, but obedience, not failure, but faithfulness, not giving up, but finally being real about where you actually are. For the grain offering and the drink offering are withheld from the house of your God. The usual ways of worship are no longer available. Beloved, the normal expressions of devotion cannot happen. There is nothing left to bring, nothing remaining to offer in the traditional manner. And so a different kind of offering must be made. The offering of broken hearts, the sacrifice of honest grief, the worship that comes not from abundance, but from emptiness, not from having much to give, but from acknowledging we have nothing left except our need for Him. Consecrate a fast, call a solemn assembly, gather the elders and all the inhabitants of the land to the house of the Lord your God, and cry out to the Lord. Consecrate a fast, beloved. Set apart a time to stop consuming, to cease taking in, to create space by deliberately choosing emptiness, not as punishment, not as self-flagellation, but as consecration, as making holy, as dedicating to God even the emptiness, especially the emptiness, because sometimes the empty space is the most sacred space we have. Call a solemn assembly. Gather everyone together, dear friend. Not just the priests, not just the spiritual leaders, not just those who seem to have their lives together, but the elders and all the inhabitants of the land, the old and the young, the strong and the weak, the faithful and the struggling, the certain and the doubting. Bring them all to the house of the Lord your God, because this is not a time for private spirituality or individual piety. This is a moment when the whole community needs to be together, when everyone needs to see that everyone else is also broken, when the collective grief needs to be expressed corporately because some sorrows are too heavy to carry alone, and cry out to the Lord. Not pray politely, beloved. Not offer carefully crafted prayers that sound impressive, but cry out. Let the raw need be expressed. Let the desperate longing be voiced. Let the honest plea rise up from hearts that have stopped trying to manage their own pain and have finally admitted they need help from beyond themselves. Let your shoulders drop completely now. Dear one, as you feel the safety of this gathering, you are not the only one who is broken. You are not the only one who needs to cry out. You are not the only one who has nothing left to offer except your need. The solemn assembly is for everyone, and in that everyone, you are included. You are welcomed. You are invited to bring your sackcloth and your empty hands and your voice that wants to cry out, and to discover that, in the gathering of broken people, in the consecrated fast, in the corporate acknowledgement of need, something happens that could never happen when we are pretending to be fine by ourselves. Alas for the day of the Lord is near, and as destruction from the Almighty it comes. Alas for the day, beloved. This is not anger, but lament, not threat, but grief, not punishment, eagerly announced, but sorrow, reluctantly spoken. The day of the Lord is near. This phrase appears throughout Scripture, sometimes as promise, sometimes as warning, always as reminder that God is not distant or detached, but actively present, moving toward a moment when His presence will be undeniable, when His purposes will be clear, when everything hidden will be revealed, and everything crooked will be made straight. And as destruction from the Almighty it comes. Let your breathing stay soft. Dear friend, as we sit with these hard words, destruction from the Almighty sounds frightening, feels threatening, seems designed to create fear. But listen underneath for the voice of love that must sometimes be fierce, that must sometimes allow difficulty, that must sometimes permit destruction, not because it delights in our pain, but because we have become so comfortable in our brokenness, so settled in our dysfunction, so accustomed to living in ways that are slowly killing us, that only destruction of what is destroying us can save us. The day of the Lord is near, beloved, not to terrify you, but to wake you up, not to condemn you, but to alert you that time is running out for continuing on the path you have been walking, that the moment is approaching when choices will have consequences that can no longer be avoided, that God is moving toward you not to harm you, but to help you, even if that help must come in the form of allowing what you have been clinging to be taken away. Is not the food cut off before our eyes? Joy and gladness from the house of our God. Is not the food cut off? God asks this question, not because He does not know the answer, but because He wants us to say it, wants us to acknowledge it, wants us to admit what we have been trying to ignore or explain away or minimize. Yes, the food is cut off. Yes, we see it with our own eyes. Yes, joy and gladness have departed from the house of God, and in that admission, in that honest acknowledgement, in that speaking of what is true, even when what is true is painful, we take the first step toward something different, toward a future that is not just repetition of the past, toward healing that can only begin when we stop pretending we are not wounded, joy and gladness from the house of our God. Can you feel the sadness in these words? Dear one, the house of God should be the place of greatest joy, the location of deepest gladness, the space where hearts are most alive and most free. But joy and gladness have departed, have been cut off along with the food, have disappeared in the wake of the devastation. And God is not ignoring this or dismissing it or telling us to just be happy anyway. He is acknowledging it, naming it, inviting us to see clearly what has happened so that we can cry out honestly for what needs to come. The seed shrivels under the clods. The storehouses are desolate. The granaries are torn down because the grain has dried up. Everything that was meant to grow has shriveled. Beloved, the seed that should have sprouted lies dead under the clods of earth. The storehouses that should have been full stand desolate. The granaries that should have been protecting abundance are torn down because there is nothing to protect, nothing to store, nothing to preserve for future use. This is complete system failure. Dear friend, not just a bad season that can be weathered, but collapse of the entire infrastructure of provision. Breakdown of all the usual means of sustenance. Loss of everything that made life feel secure and predictable. Let your body remain soft. Dear one, even as you hear these descriptions of loss, because if your life feels like this, if your inner storehouses are desolate, and your capacity to grow new things has shriveled, and your granaries have been torn down, then you need to know that God sees this, understands this, is not condemning you for it. He is simply being honest about what is true, creating space for the crying out that must happen before the restoration can come. How the beasts groan. The herds of cattle are perplexed because there is no pasture for them. Even the flocks of sheep suffer. Even the animals are suffering. Beloved, the beasts groan, the cattle are perplexed, the sheep suffer. They did not make choices that led to this devastation. They are not being punished for sins they committed. They are simply caught up in the consequences of a broken world, affected by what has gone wrong in ways they cannot understand or control. And their groaning, their perplexity, their suffering, all of it is noticed by God. All of it matters to Him. All of it is part of the picture of what has been lost and what needs to be restored. And if the animals matter to God, dear friend, if their groaning is heard and their perplexity is seen and their suffering is acknowledged, then how much more does He see you, hear you, notice your pain and confusion and loss? You are not invisible. Your groaning is not ignored. Your perplexity at how things got this bad. Your suffering under circumstances you did not choose and cannot control. All of it is held in the heart of God, who allows the devastation not because He is indifferent to your pain, but because He is working towards something better than what was before, something that can only come through the breaking. Let your breathing slow to almost nothing now. Beloved, as we sit with the nearness of the day of the Lord, it is not far away, it is coming. And that coming is both fearful and hopeful, both sobering and encouraging, both warning and promise. Because the day that brings destruction to what is destroying us is the same day that brings restoration to what has been destroyed in us. The same moment when God's active presence breaks through and changes everything. The same arrival that ends one story and begins another. To you, O Lord, I cry, for fire has devoured the pastures of the wilderness, and flame has burned all the trees of the field. To you, O Lord, I cry. These are Joel's words, beloved, the prophet's own prayer rising from his heart in the midst of all this devastation. And notice where the cry is directed. Not to other people for sympathy, not to political leaders for solutions, not to religious systems for comfort, but to you, O Lord, to the one who can actually do something, who has power to restore, who hears when we cry and is moved by what he hears. I cry, dear friend. Not I pray eloquently, or I worship perfectly, or I maintain composure, but I cry. This is raw need expressed, desperate longing voiced, honest acknowledgement that I am overwhelmed and undone and cannot manage this on my own. And there is such freedom in this, beloved, such relief in finally letting go of the pretense and simply crying out, simply letting the need be known, simply admitting that we are not fine and we need help. For fire has devoured the pastures of the wilderness, and flame has burned all the trees of the field. The devastation continues. The destruction spreads, not just from locusts now, but from fire, from flame that consumes what the insects left behind, that burns away even the possibility of recovery, that leaves behind only ash where there used to be life. And this fire, this flame, drives Joel to his knees, compels him to cry out, pushes him to the only place where help can actually be found. Let your shoulders release any remaining tension now, dear one, as you recognize that your own devastation, your own sense of being consumed by fire, your own experience of having everything burned away, this is not happening because you are being singled out for punishment or because God has abandoned you. This is the wilderness being cleared, the old growth being removed, the ground being prepared for new planting that could not happen while the old was still standing. Even the beasts of the field pant for you, because the water brooks are dried up, and fire has devoured the pastures of the wilderness. Even the beasts of the field pant for you. Beloved, the animals, in their suffering, in their thirst, in their desperate need for what has been taken away, they pant for God. not consciously, perhaps, not with theological understanding or spiritual insight, but instinctively, naturally, as all creation groans and longs for the presence of the Creator, as everything that has been made yearns for the one who made it, as all that is broken cries out for the one who can make it whole again. The water brooks are dried up. The sources of life are empty. Dear friend, what used to flow freely has stopped flowing. What used to sustain and refresh and give life has dried up, has disappeared, has left behind only empty beds where water used to run. And this drying up of the brooks creates a thirst that cannot be satisfied by anything except the return of water, a need that cannot be met by anything except the restoration of what has been lost. Can you feel your own thirst tonight? Beloved, can you recognize the panting in your own soul? The desperate longing for what the dried up brooks used to provide? The deep need for water that nothing else can substitute for this thirst? This panting, this crying out from the emptiness? This is not weakness. This is wisdom. This is the created order functioning as it was designed, turning toward the Creator when creation proves insufficient, looking for the source when all the streams have run dry. Let your whole body rest now, dear one, as we sit in this place where even the animals are crying out, where all of creation is groaning, where the prophet is adding his voice to the universal plea rising from a devastated world. You are not crying out alone. You are joining a chorus, adding your voice to a great company of the broken and the thirsty, and the ones who have discovered that when everything else fails, when every other source dries up, when fire devours and flame burns and locusts strip away everything we thought we needed, there remains one to whom we can cry, one who hears the panting of beasts and the groaning of creation and the desperate prayers of hearts that have finally admitted their need. And that one, beloved, that Lord to whom Joel cries, to whom the beasts pant, toward whom all creation leans in its brokenness. He is not far away. He is not indifferent. He is not unmoved by what he sees and hears. He has allowed the devastation for a purpose, has permitted the stripping for a reason, has let the fires burn and the brooks dry up because he is preparing to do something new, something that could not happen while we were still full and satisfied and comfortable and convinced we could manage without him. So cry out tonight, dear friend. Let your voice join Joel's voice and the groaning of creation and the panting of the beasts. Let the thirst be acknowledged. Let the need be spoken. Let the emptiness where the water brooks used to flow become the very place where your prayer rises most honestly, most desperately, most hopefully, because the God who hears is the God who responds, and the crying out is not the end of the story, but the beginning of restoration. Not the final word, but the first word of a conversation that will lead to healing. Not the conclusion, but the opening of a door through which mercy is about to rush in like water, like rain, like floods in the wilderness that will fill every dried-up brook and satisfy every panting beast and answer every cry that rises from hearts that have finally learned that He is the only source, the only supply, the only one who can give what we most deeply need. Rest in that knowing tonight, beloved. Rest in the safety of being able to cry out honestly. Rest in the company of all creation that is groaning with you, panting with you, longing with you for the restoration that is surely coming. Your thirst is not punishment. Your emptiness is not condemnation. Your crying out is not evidence of failure. It is the beginning of healing, the first movement toward fullness, the opening of your hands and heart to receive what God has been waiting to give you, what He will pour out in abundance when the time is right, when the preparation is complete, when the ground of your life has been cleared of everything that would have choked out what He is about to plant. Amen. I want you to breathe very slowly with me now, beloved, as we prepare to enter into some of the most powerful imagery in all of Scripture. What we are about to hear may sound frightening at first, may seem overwhelming, may feel like too much to bear. But I want you to remember as we walk through these verses together that every warning is an act of love, that every alarm is rung by someone who cares too much to let us sleep through danger, that even the most sobering words are spoken by a Father whose heart is turned toward us, not against us. Blow a trumpet in Zion, sound an alarm on my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble. For the day of the Lord is coming. It is near. The trumpet sounds again. Dear friend, we heard it before, and now it sounds once more, louder this time, more insistent, more urgent. Blow a trumpet in Zion. Sound an alarm on my holy mountain. This is not whispered privately, but proclaimed publicly. Not suggested quietly, but announced loudly. Because what is coming is too significant to be understated, too important to be downplayed, too consequential to be ignored. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble. I know that word tremble can frighten us. Beloved, it suggests fear, shaking, the kind of response we have when we are genuinely afraid. But let me tell you what trembling really means in this context. It means waking up completely, becoming fully alert, recognizing that this is not just another ordinary moment, but something that requires our full attention, our complete awareness, our undivided focus. To tremble is to take seriously what is being said, to let it penetrate our comfortable assumptions, to allow it to shake us out of the sleepiness that keeps us from seeing clearly. For the day of the Lord is coming. It is near. This day we have been hearing about. This moment when God's presence breaks through in undeniable ways, when His purposes become clear, when everything hidden is revealed. It is not far off in some distant future. It is near. It is approaching. It is closer than we think. And that nearness is both warning and promise, both sobering reality and hope-filled assurance. Because the same day that brings reckoning for what is wrong also brings restoration for what is broken. A day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and thick darkness. Like blackness, there is spread upon the mountains a great and powerful people. Their like has never been before, nor will be again after them through the years of all generations. He describes this day as darkness and gloom, clouds and thick darkness. Beloved, not because God delights in darkness, but because when light finally comes, when truth finally breaks through, when reality can no longer be avoided, it often feels dark to those who have been living in comfortable illusions. The darkness is not God hiding, but our eyes finally having to adjust to seeing things as they really are, not as we have been pretending they are. Like blackness spread upon the mountains comes a great and powerful people. This is the invading army. Dear friend, described in terms that make clear its overwhelming force, its unstoppable advance, its unprecedented nature. Their like has never been before, nor will be again. This is unique, singular, a moment unlike any other moment, an event that will mark history and divide it into before and after. But I want you to hear something underneath this description. Beloved, these images of overwhelming force, of unprecedented invasion, of darkness spreading like blackness across mountains, they are not meant to make you cower in terror. They are meant to help you understand that when God moves, when His purposes unfold, when His day arrives, it comes with power sufficient to accomplish what needs accomplishing, with force adequate to change what needs changing, with authority capable of setting right what has gone wrong. Fire devours before them, and behind them a flame burns. The land is like the Garden of Eden before them, but behind them a desolate wilderness, and nothing escapes them. Fire before them and flame behind. Dear one, everything is consumed. Everything is changed. Everything is transformed by their passing. The land that was like the Garden of Eden, beautiful and abundant and full of life, becomes a desolate wilderness after they pass through. Nothing escapes. Nothing remains untouched. Nothing is left as it was. Let your body stay soft as you hear this, beloved, because I need you to understand what is really being described here. Yes, this speaks of devastation. Yes, it describes complete transformation. But transformation is what we need. Dear friend, the Garden of Eden we think we have is often built on foundations that cannot hold, filled with beauty that is only surface deep, abundant with things that do not actually nourish our souls. And sometimes, the only way to prepare ground for genuine flourishing is to let fire pass through, to allow the desolate wilderness to appear, to experience the stripping away of what looked like Eden, but was actually keeping us from the true paradise God wants to give us. Their appearance is like the appearance of horses, and like war horses they run. As with the rumbling of chariots, they leap on the tops of the mountains, like the crackling of a flame of fire devouring the stubble, like a powerful army drawn up for battle. Listen to the sounds in this description. Beloved, the rumbling of chariots, the crackling of flame, the thunder of an army drawn up for battle. These are not quiet images. This is not gentle or subtle or easy to ignore. This is overwhelming, all-consuming, impossible to miss. And that is precisely the point. When God speaks through circumstances that shake us, when He allows disruption that cannot be overlooked, when He permits devastation that forces us to pay attention, it is not because He lacks gentleness. It is because we have stopped responding to whispers, have learned to ignore quiet promptings, have become so comfortable in our dysfunction that only something loud and undeniable can break through. Before them, peoples are in anguish. All faces grow pale. Like warriors, they charge. Like soldiers, they scale the wall. They march each on his way. They do not swerve from their paths. The response to this army is anguish. Beloved, faces growing pale, fear that cannot be hidden, and the army itself is utterly focused, completely determined. They march each on his way. Do not swerve from their paths. There is no confusion, no hesitation, no turning back. What has been set in motion will be completed. What has begun will be finished. What is approaching will arrive. And this too, dear friend, is both sobering and comforting. Sobering because it means we cannot stop what is coming, cannot divert what God has set in motion, cannot avoid the day of the Lord through our own cleverness or strength, but comforting because it means that God's purposes are sure. His plans will not be thwarted. His determination to set things right will not be deterred by any obstacle, any resistance, any attempt to maintain the status quo that is killing us. They do not jostle one another. Each marches in his path. They burst through the weapons and are not halted. They leap upon the city. They run upon the walls. They climb up into the houses. They enter through the windows like a thief. Nothing stops them. Beloved, not weapons, not walls, not locked doors or closed windows. They find a way in. They reach what they have come to reach. They accomplish what they have come to accomplish. And the image of entering through windows like a thief reminds us that this invasion comes when we are not prepared, arrives when we are not ready, breaks through our defenses when we thought we were secure. But let me ask you something. Dear one, what if what looks like invasion is actually rescue? What if what feels like breaking in is actually breaking through? What if the thief who enters through the window is not coming to steal your treasures, but to liberate you from the prison you have been living in, to free you from the chains you have grown so accustomed to that you no longer even notice their weight? The earth quakes before them, the heavens tremble. The sun and the moon are darkened, and the stars withdraw their shining. All of creation responds to this army. Beloved, the earth quakes, the heavens tremble, the sun and moon are darkened, the stars withdraw their light. This is cosmic in scale, universal in impact, affecting not just one nation or one people, but all of reality, all of existence, everything that is. And I want you to feel the magnitude of this. Dear friend, not to frighten you, but to help you understand that what God is doing is not small, not limited, not just about fixing one problem in one area of your life. When the day of the Lord comes, when His purposes unfold, when His army marches, it affects everything. The whole cosmos responds. All of reality shifts. Nothing remains outside the scope of His transforming work. The Lord utters His voice before His army, for His camp is exceedingly great. He who executes His word is powerful. For the day of the Lord is great and very awesome. Who can endure it? And here we discover the truth that has been building through all these images. Beloved, the Lord utters His voice before His army. This is not random disaster. This is not natural catastrophe beyond divine control. This is the Lord's army, His camp, executing His word. The devastation has a purpose. The invasion has a commander. The overwhelming force is directed by divine intention. For the day of the Lord is great and very awesome. Who can endure it? This is the question that hangs in the air. Dear one, who can stand when this day comes? Who can survive when this army marches? Who can endure when earth quakes and heavens tremble and nothing escapes the fire that burns before and behind? And the answer, beloved, the answer that will unfold in the verses to come, is not who can endure through their own strength or worthiness or righteousness. The answer is, who will turn? Who will return? Who will rend their hearts and cry out to the one whose army this is, whose voice commands it, whose purposes drive it forward? Because the same Lord whose day is awesome and whose army is powerful is also, as we are about to discover, gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love. Let your breathing deepen now, dear friend, as we prepare to hear the most beautiful words in this entire prophecy, the invitation that sits at the heart of all the warning, the grace that has been the goal all along. Yet even now, declares the Lord, return to me with all your heart, with fasting, with weeping, and with mourning. Yet even now, I need you to feel the full weight of these 3 words, beloved. After everything we have just heard, after all the descriptions of overwhelming invasion and consuming fire and cosmic upheaval, after the question, who can endure it, still echoing in our ears, we hear these words, yet even now, even after all this, even in the midst of the devastation, even as the army approaches and the day draws near, even now, it is not too late. Return to me with all your heart. This is the invitation that has been waiting underneath all the warnings. Dear friend, this is what the trumpet was sounding to announce. This is why the alarm was rung, not to condemn, but to call, not to destroy, but to draw back, not to end relationship, but to restore it. Return to me. Come home. Turn around. Stop running away and start running toward. Stop hiding and start seeking. Stop pretending you are fine and start acknowledging you need help. With all your heart, not with part of your heart while the rest remains turned away, not with superficial gestures while the core remains unchanged, not with religious performance while the inner reality stays broken, but with all your heart, with everything you are, with complete honesty, with total vulnerability, with nothing held back and nothing kept in reserve, with fasting, with weeping, and with mourning. These are the expressions of genuine turning. Beloved, fasting that creates space by removing what usually fills it. Weeping that acknowledges the pain of what has been lost. Mourning that does not rush past grief, but stays in it long enough to feel its full weight, to let it do its work, to allow it to soften what has become hard and break what has become brittle. Can you hear the gentleness in this invitation? Dear one, even in calling for fasting and weeping and mourning, there is tenderness. God is not demanding these things because He enjoys watching us suffer. He is prescribing them because He knows they are part of healing. because genuine return requires genuine acknowledgement of what we are returning from. Because transformation cannot happen while we are still pretending everything is fine. Rend your hearts and not your garments. Return to the Lord your God, for he is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love, and he relents over disaster. Rend your hearts and not your garments. This is one of the most beautiful and most challenging verses in all of Scripture. Beloved, in ancient Israel, tearing one's garments was the traditional sign of mourning, the external expression of internal grief. But God says here that what he wants is not the external sign, but the internal reality. Not the torn clothing, but the torn heart. Not the visible symbol, but the invisible truth underneath. Rend your hearts. Let them be broken open. Dear friend, let the hardness be cracked. Let the walls you have built around your heart to protect yourself from being hurt again be torn down. Let the defenses that keep pain out, but also keep love out, be dismantled. Let yourself be vulnerable, exposed, open to being touched in the places you have been keeping closed, and not your garments. Do not offer God the performance. Beloved, do not bring him the religious activity that looks impressive to others, but costs you nothing. Do not tear your clothing while keeping your heart intact. Do not fast while your soul remains full of everything except God. Do not weep visible tears while refusing to mourn what actually needs to be mourned. Return to the Lord your God. And now comes the reason, the motivation, the truth about who you are returning to. For he is gracious, not harsh, not cruel, not waiting to punish, but gracious, ready to give what you do not deserve, prepared to offer what you could never earn, eager to extend favor that cannot be explained by anything except his nature, and merciful, full of mercy, overflowing with compassion, quick to forgive, and slow to condemn. The mercy is not reluctant or limited or parceled out carefully. It is abundant, generous, more than enough for whatever you have done, whatever you have become, wherever you have wandered. Slow to anger, not because he does not care about righteousness or is indifferent to sin, but because his love is greater than his anger, his patience longer than your wandering, his willingness to keep reaching for you more persistent than your determination to run away, and abounding in steadfast love. This is Hesed, beloved, the covenant love that does not change, that does not depend on your performance, that remains constant even when you are faithless. Abounding means there is more than enough, more than you could ever need, more than all your failures could exhaust, more than all your wandering could diminish. And he relents over disaster. When you return, when your heart is truly rent, when you come back with all your heart. He relents. He changes his mind about the disaster. Not because he was wrong before, but because your turning creates a new situation, a different reality, a changed relationship that makes the disaster no longer necessary. The disaster was coming to wake you up, to bring you back, to accomplish your return. And when the return happens, when you come home, the disaster has served its purpose and can be withdrawn. Let your whole body soften now, dear one, as you let these truths about God's character sink deep into every place where you have been afraid of him, where you have imagined him as harsh or eager to punish or quick to give up on you. He is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love. This is who he is. This is his nature. This is what awaits you when you return. Not because you have made yourself worthy, but because he is gracious. Not because you have earned it, but because he is merciful. Who knows whether he will not turn and relent and leave a blessing behind him, a grain offering and a drink offering for the Lord your God. Who knows there is beautiful humility in this question? Beloved, after all the assurances about God's character, after all the descriptions of his grace and mercy, there is still this acknowledgement that we cannot control God, cannot manipulate him, cannot guarantee specific outcomes through our religious activity. Who knows whether he will turn and relent, but notice what follows that uncertainty, dear friend, and leave a blessing behind him. Even in the not knowing, there is hope. Even in the acknowledgement that God remains sovereign and free, there is expectation that he might, that he could, that it is entirely consistent with his character to turn and relent and leave blessing where there was curse, abundance where there was emptiness, grain offerings and drink offerings where there was nothing left to offer. This is the faith that returns. Beloved, not certainty about exactly what will happen, not detailed plans for how God will respond, not demands that he must act in specific ways, but humble hope that he might, that he is capable of it, that it would be just like him to take your torn heart and your honest return and your fasting and weeping and mourning and meet them with blessing, with provision, with restoration of what was lost, with gifts that enable worship to resume, with abundance that makes offerings possible again. Blow the trumpet in Zion, consecrate a fast, call a solemn assembly. The trumpet sounds yet again, beloved, but this time with a different tone. Not to warn of approaching army now, but to call the people to gather, to summon them to assembly, to invite them into the corporate turning that needs to happen. Consecrate a fast. Set apart this time of emptiness. Make holy the space created by removing what usually fills it. Call a solemn assembly. Bring everyone together. Let this be a moment when the whole community participates, when no one is excluded, when all are invited to return together. I want you to notice something beautiful here, dear friend. The same trumpet that warned of judgment now calls to restoration. The same sound that announced devastation now summons to salvation. The instrument has not changed, but its purpose has shifted from alarm to invitation, from warning to welcome, from announcing disaster to calling for the return that will prevent disaster from completing its work. Gather the people, consecrate the congregation, assemble the elders, gather the children, even nursing infants. Let the bridegroom leave his room, and the bride her chamber. Gather everyone, beloved, every single person. Consecrate the congregation. Set apart the whole community for this moment of turning. Assemble the elders, those who carry wisdom and memory and authority. Gather the children, even the nursing infants who cannot understand what is happening, but whose presence reminds everyone what is at stake, who the future will belong to, why this return matters so urgently. Let the bridegroom leave his room, and the bride her chamber. Even those in the most private, most protected, most joyful moments of life must interrupt what they are doing to participate in this corporate return. Not because their joy is unimportant, but because what is happening is more important. Not because their celebration does not matter, but because restoration of right relationship with God matters more. Not because they should not be happy, but because there can be no lasting happiness while the community remains in broken covenant with its Creator. Can you feel the inclusiveness of this call? Dear friend, no one is too old or too young, too important or too insignificant, too religious or too secular, too joyful or too sorrowful to be excluded from this moment. Everyone is invited. Everyone is needed. Everyone has a place in the solemn assembly, in the consecrated fast, in the corporate return to the Lord. Between the vestibule and the altar, let the priests, the ministers of the Lord, weep and say, "Spare your people, O Lord, and make not your heritage a reproach, a byword among the nations. Why should they say among the peoples, 'Where is their God?'" And now we come to one of the most tender and powerful images in all of Scripture. Beloved, between the vestibule and the altar, in that sacred space where priests move between the outer court and the inner sanctuary, between the place where people gather and the place where God's presence dwells most intensely. There the priests stand and weep, not as performance, not as religious duty, but with genuine tears, with broken hearts, with sorrow that cannot be contained. Let the priests weep, the spiritual leaders, the ones who are supposed to be strong, who carry responsibility for others, who are looked to for stability and guidance. They are called to weep, not to maintain composure, but to let their hearts break, not to model stoicism, but to demonstrate genuine grief, not to pretend everything is fine, but to acknowledge how broken everything has become. And as they weep, they pray, "Beloved, spare your people, O Lord. Not spare us because we deserve it, or spare us because we have earned it, or spare us because we have rights that must be honored, but simply spare your people," an appeal to mercy, to grace, to the covenant relationship that remains despite all the breaking of it, to the love that persists even when it is not returned. And make not your heritage a reproach, a byword among the nations. This is intercession that cares about God's reputation. Dear friend, not out of manipulation, but out of love for Him, the priests are saying, "Lord, we know we deserve judgment. We know we have failed. But if you destroy us completely, if you let us be fully consumed, then the nations will mock you. They will say, 'Where is their God? What good was their covenant? What happened to the promises?' And your name will be reproached." Can you hear the love in this prayer? Beloved, it is not primarily self-interested. It is not mainly concerned with avoiding consequences. It cares about God's glory, about His reputation, about how He will be perceived and spoken of among the nations. This is the kind of prayer that moves God's heart, that touches His compassion, that reminds Him of what He cares most about, which is not punishing sin, but displaying mercy, not executing judgment, but demonstrating His gracious character. Why should they say among the peoples, "Where is their God?" Let that question sink into you tonight. Dear one, where is your God? Have you ever felt this question directed at you? Or perhaps whispered it yourself in moments of devastation, when everything has been stripped away, when the locusts have devoured, and the fire has consumed, and the darkness has spread across the mountains. Where is God in all of this? Has He abandoned you? Has He forgotten you? Has He stopped caring? And the priest's prayer is saying to God, "Do not let it appear as if you are absent, as if you do not care, as if your people can cry out to you and receive no answer. Act, Lord. Respond. Show yourself. Not for our sake primarily, though we desperately need you, but for your own sake, for the sake of your name, for the sake of your reputation among the nations who are watching to see if you are really who you claim to be." Let your breathing become very slow now. Beloved, as you stand with the priests between the vestibule and the altar. You may not be a priest in the formal sense, but you can enter into this posture tonight. You can stand in that sacred space and weep. You can let your heart break for yourself and for others. You can pray for mercy not because you deserve it, but because God is merciful. Not because you have earned it, but because that is His nature. And as you stand there weeping, as you cry out for God to spare His people and not let His heritage become a reproach, know that you are praying a prayer that God loves to answer. You are standing where He wants you to stand. You are asking for what He wants to give. You are participating in the very restoration you are praying for. Because the act of standing between vestibule and altar with a rent heart and genuine tears is itself the beginning of the return He has been calling for all along. Rest tonight in this truth. Dear friend, God is not waiting for you to be perfect before He will hear you. He is not requiring you to fix yourself before you can approach Him. He is inviting you to come as you are, with rent heart and honest tears, to stand in the sacred space and cry out for mercy. And that mercy, that grace, that steadfast love that abounds beyond all deserving, it is already moving toward you, already preparing to answer, already ready to restore what has been lost and heal what has been broken and fill what has been emptied. The priests weep between vestibule and altar, and God hears. And in that hearing, everything is about to change. Amen. Then the Lord became jealous for His land and had pity on His people. Let your breathing become soft as morning light now, beloved, as we come to the most beautiful turn in all of Joel's prophecy. Then, after the devastation, after the stripping away, after the trumpet sounded and the army approached and the hearts were rent, after the priests wept between vestibule and altar and the people gathered in solemn assembly, then, in response to their return, in answer to their tears, moved by their rent hearts, then the Lord became jealous for His land. Jealous, dear friend. This is not petty envy or possessive insecurity. This is the fierce protective love of a husband for his wife, the passionate commitment of one who will not share what belongs to him with any other, the burning desire to reclaim what is his and drive away anything that threatens it. God becomes jealous for His land, for His people, for what He has chosen and loved and claimed as His own. And that jealousy, that holy fire of exclusive devotion, it moves Him to action, and had pity on His people. The Hebrew word here is so tender, beloved. It speaks of deep compassion, of a love that cannot bear to watch suffering continue, of mercy that overflows and must express itself in care. God looks at His people in their brokenness, and His heart melts. He sees them in their devastation, and his compassion rises up. He hears their weeping, and his pity moves him to respond, to act, to begin the work of restoration that his heart has been longing to do all along. Can you feel the shift that has happened here? Dear one, we have moved from warning to welcome, from judgment to mercy, from devastation described to restoration promised. And this shift happens not because God changed his mind arbitrarily, but because his people returned, because their hearts were rent, because they stood between vestibule and altar and wept and cried out for him to spare them. Their turning enabled his turning. Their return made possible his restoration. Their rent hearts opened the way for his pity to flow. The Lord answered and said to his people, "Behold, I am sending to you grain, wine, and oil, and you will be satisfied, and I will no more make you a reproach among the nations." The Lord answered. He did not stay silent. Beloved. He did not leave them wondering whether he heard. He answered, spoke clearly, made his intentions known. And what he says is so beautiful, so full of promise, so overflowing with grace that we need to let each phrase sink deep into our souls. Behold, I am sending to you grain, wine, and oil, the very things that were cut off, the offerings that could not be made, the provisions that had disappeared. God himself is sending them back, not just allowing them to return, but actively sending them, personally providing them, directly restoring what was lost: grain for sustenance, wine for joy, oil for anointing and healing. Everything needed not just for survival, but for flourishing. Not just for bare existence, but for abundant life. And you will be satisfied. Not just fed, but satisfied. Beloved. Not just given enough to get by, but filled completely. Having all your needs met and your deepest hungers addressed. This is God's promise to those who return to him with rent hearts. Not scarcity, not bare minimum, not just barely enough, but satisfaction, fullness, abundant provision that leaves no need unmet, no hunger unfilled, no emptiness remaining. And I will no more make you a reproach among the nations. Remember the priest's prayer. Dear friend, make not your heritage a reproach, a byword among the nations. And God answers that prayer directly, specifically, personally. I will no more make you a reproach. Your shame will end. Your humiliation will cease. The mocking will stop. The question, where is their God, will be answered not with words, but with visible restoration, with undeniable provision, with blessing so obvious that even the nations cannot miss it. Let your shoulders drop completely now, beloved, as you receive this promise. If you have felt like a reproach, if you have carried shame, if you have wondered whether others look at your life and question whether God is really with you, hear this word spoken over you tonight. He will no more make you a reproach. Your season of humiliation is ending. Your time of being a byword is drawing to a close. Restoration is beginning, and it will be visible, undeniable, a testimony to the nations of what God does for those who return to Him with all their hearts. I will remove the northerner far from you, and drive him into a parched and desolate land, his vanguard into the eastern sea, and his rear guard into the western sea. His stench and foul smell will rise, for he has done great things. The enemy will be removed, dear one. The invading army that seemed unstoppable, the force that consumed everything in its path, the devastation that appeared permanent. God Himself will remove it, drive it far away into parched and desolate land, into the eastern sea and the western sea, completely away, thoroughly expelled, driven to the very edges until it can threaten no more. His stench and foul smell will rise, for he has done great things. The enemy accomplished much, beloved, did great damage, caused enormous devastation. But now that work is finished, the purpose served, the stripping complete, and what remains is only the stench of what was, the foul smell of destruction that is now past, the memory of what happened but is happening no longer. Can you imagine this? Dear friend, the enemy that has been devouring your life, the force that has been stripping away everything you valued, the devastation that seemed like it would never end, God is promising to remove it, to drive it far away, to send it into the sea where it can harm you no more. The season of loss is ending, beloved. The time of being consumed is finishing. Restoration is beginning, and it starts with the enemy being removed, with the threat being eliminated, with the danger being driven away to where it cannot reach you anymore. Let your breathing deepen now, dear one, as you feel the safety in this promise. You are not going to be under siege forever. The army is not going to occupy your land permanently. The devastation is not the final word. God has become jealous for you. He has had pity on you. He is answering your cry, and His answer begins with protection, with removal of the enemy, with driving away what has been destroying you. Rest in that knowing tonight. The northerner is being removed. The threat is being eliminated. The season of devastation is ending, and the season of restoration is beginning. Fear not. O land, be glad and rejoice, for the Lord has done great things. Fear not, O land. After all the trembling, after all the darkness, after all the devastation described and experienced, God speaks these words of comfort. Fear not, do not be afraid. The threat is past. The danger is removed. The season of terror is ending. And now there is permission to be glad, invitation to rejoice, encouragement to lift up your head and see that the Lord has done great things. Notice what the land is called to rejoice about. Beloved, not what the land has done, not what the people have accomplished, not what has been achieved through human effort, but what the Lord has done. He has acted. He has moved. He has intervened. And his action, his movement, his intervention, these are the great things that warrant gladness, that justify rejoicing, that create space for fear to depart and joy to return. Let your body soften completely now. Dear friend, as you hear these words spoken over you, fear not. Whatever has been frightening you, whatever has been keeping you anxious, whatever has been filling you with dread, God is saying tonight, fear not. Be glad. Let gladness return. Be willing to feel joy again. Rejoice. Even if it seems premature, even if the full restoration is not yet visible, even if you are still in the early stages of recovery, begin to rejoice because the Lord has done and is doing great things. Fear not, you beasts of the field, for the pastures of the wilderness are green. The tree bears its fruit. The fig tree and vine give their full yield. Even the animals are addressed. Beloved, told not to fear, assured that provision is returning. The pastures of the wilderness are green again. What was brown and dead and burned is now green, alive, growing. The tree bears its fruit. What was barren is now productive. The fig tree and vine, those specific trees that were stripped by the locusts, they give their full yield, not partial recovery, not barely enough, but full yield, complete restoration, abundance that makes up for all the years of emptiness. Can you picture this? Dear one, the green returning to what was brown, the fruit appearing on trees that were stripped bare, the vines heavy with grapes after being cut down to nothing. This is what restoration looks like in the natural world, and it is a picture of what God wants to do in your spiritual landscape, in the field of your soul, in the vineyard of your heart. What has been barren will bear fruit again. What was stripped will be clothed again. What gave no yield will give full yield. Abundant harvest. more than enough to make up for all the seasons of loss. Be glad, O children of Zion, and rejoice in the Lord your God, for he has given the early rain for your vindication. He has poured down for you abundant rain, the early and the latter rain, as before. Be glad, O children of Zion. This is personal now. Beloved, addressed not to the land or the animals, but to the people, to God's children, to those who belong to him and are called by his name. And the call is to rejoice not just in what God gives, but in the Lord your God himself. Rejoice in him, in his character, in his faithfulness, in his determination to restore what was lost. For he has given the early rain for your vindication. The early rain comes at the beginning of the growing season, beloved, preparing the soil, softening the ground, making it possible for seeds to germinate and take root. And God gives this rain for your vindication, to demonstrate that you were right to return to him, to prove that he is who he says he is, to show all who were watching that those who trust in him are not put to shame. He has poured down for you abundant rain, the early and the latter rain, as before. Not just the early rain, but also the latter rain that comes near harvest time, that fills out the grain and brings the fruit to maturity. Both rains, beloved, the rain that starts the growth and the rain that completes it, the rain of beginning and the rain of finishing, the rain that prepares and the rain that perfects, as before, as it used to be, as it was meant to be all along. Let your whole being rest in this image now. Dear friend, rain falling abundantly on dry ground, moisture soaking into soil that has been parched, life returning to what was dead. And this rain, this water from heaven, it is not earned or deserved. It is poured down, given freely, provided abundantly. All you have to do is receive it. Let it fall on you. Allow it to soak into the dry places in your soul. Permit it to prepare the ground for new growth that is about to begin. The threshing floors shall be full of grain. The vats shall overflow with wine and oil. Full of grain, beloved, not partially filled, not barely adequate, but full, abundance, more than enough. The threshing floors that were empty will be full. The vats that were dry will overflow, not just filled to the brim, but overflowing, spilling over, having more than can be contained. This is God's vision for restoration. Dear one, not just bringing you back to where you were before, not just replacing what was lost, but filling and overflowing, abundance that exceeds what was, blessing that is greater than what you had before the devastation came. Because God does not just repair, He restores. He does not just patch up, He makes new. He does not just give back, He gives more, gives better, gives in ways that demonstrate His generosity and His delight in blessing those who return to Him. Let your breathing slow to almost nothing now. Beloved, as you picture these threshing floors full of grain, these vats overflowing with wine and oil, can you see it? Can you imagine your own life, your own circumstances, your own inner landscape transformed like this? What has been empty filled, what has been dry overflowing, what has been barren producing abundance. This is what God is promising. Dear friend, this is what He is beginning to do. This is where the rain is leading, where the green pastures and fruit-bearing trees are pointing, where all the gladness and rejoicing find their completion. I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten, the hopper, the destroyer, and the cutter, my great army, which I sent among you. I will restore to you the years. Let these words wash over you like water, beloved, like oil, like wine poured out in abundance. The years, not just the grain from this season, not just the immediate losses, but the years, the accumulated time, all the seasons that were stripped away, all the harvests that never came, all the abundance that should have been but was devoured instead. That the swarming locust has eaten, the hopper, the destroyer, and the cutter, all four kinds of locusts. Dear friend, all four waves of devastation, all four stages of complete loss, what they ate, God will restore. What they consumed, He will replace. What they destroyed, He will rebuild. And He calls them my great army, which I sent among you. Acknowledging that this was not random disaster, but divine purpose. Not meaningless suffering, but stripping that served a function. Not cruelty, but the painful love that must sometimes take away what is killing us before it can give us what will make us truly alive. Can you feel the magnitude of this promise? Beloved years restored. Not just a good season to make up for a bad one, not just recovery of recent losses, but years, plural, multiple. However many were eaten, however long the devastation lasted, however much was lost in the stripping, God is promising to restore it all, to give back what seems irretrievably gone, to return what appears to be lost forever. And I want you to hear this with your deepest heart. Dear one, if you have lost years to addiction, God can restore them. If you have lost years to bad choices, to broken relationships, to wandering in the wilderness, God can restore them. If you have lost years to depression, to anxiety, to simply surviving rather than truly living, God can restore them. The promise is not that the lost years will be erased from memory, not that you can go back and live them over again, but that God can redeem them, can bring from them fruit they did not produce when they were happening, can use even the devastated years as preparation for the abundant years that are coming. You shall eat in plenty and be satisfied, and praise the name of the Lord your God, who has dealt wondrously with you. And my people shall never again be put to shame. You shall eat in plenty and be satisfied, both together, beloved, plenty and satisfaction, abundance and fulfillment, not just food, but enough food, not just provision, but satisfying provision. You will eat, and the eating will be enough, will fill the hunger, will leave you content and grateful and whole. And praise the name of the Lord your God, who has dealt wondrously with you. The natural response to this kind of restoration is praise. Beloved, not forced, not obligatory, not performed to earn more blessing, but spontaneous, joyful, overflowing praise that comes from hearts that have been filled, souls that have been satisfied, lives that have experienced the wonder of God's restorative work. Who has dealt wondrously with you? He has done wonders, performed miracles, accomplished what seemed impossible, brought forth abundance from devastation, made beauty from ashes, caused rejoicing where there was mourning, and my people shall never again be put to shame. This is the final promise. Dear friend, the ultimate assurance. Never again. Not just for now, not just temporarily, but never again will shame be your portion. Never again will reproach be your experience. Never again will you have to hang your head in humiliation while others ask where your God is, because He will be so visibly present, so obviously blessing, so clearly at work in your life that no one will be able to deny His reality, His power, His faithfulness to those who return to Him with all their hearts. Let your shoulders drop completely now. Beloved, let any remaining tension flow out like water. Can you feel the completeness of this restoration? The years restored, the eating in plenty, the satisfaction, the praise, the promise that shame will never again be your portion. This is what God does for those who rend their hearts and return to Him, who stand between vestibule and altar and weep, who gather in solemn assembly and cry out for mercy. You shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, and there is none else. and my people shall never again be put to shame. You shall know, not wonder, not hope, not believe uncertainly, but know with settled confidence, with unshakable assurance, with experiential certainty born of encounter and relationship and walking together through devastation into restoration. You shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, in your midst, beloved, not far away, not watching from a distance, not removed and detached, but in the midst, present, active, involved, living among you, walking with you, making his home with you, and that I am the Lord your God, and there is none else. This is the knowledge that matters most. Dear friend, not just that God exists, not just that he is powerful, not just that he can restore, but that he is the Lord your God, that he has claimed you, that he is in covenant with you, that he is yours and you are his, and there is none else. No other God competes with him. No other power rivals him. No other source can do what he does, give what he gives, restore what he restores. And my people shall never again be put to shame. He says it twice, beloved, repeats it for emphasis, underlines it so we cannot miss it. Never again. This is not temporary relief, but permanent transformation. Not just a good season followed by more devastation, but never again will shame be your portion. Never again will reproach define you. Never again will you have to hide your face or wonder if God has forgotten you, or fear that others will mock your faith. Let your breathing become soft as silk now, dear one, as you rest in these promises. The Lord is in your midst. He is restoring the years. He is filling your threshing floors and overflowing your vats. He is giving you rain, early and latter, preparing soil and bringing harvest to maturity. He is removing enemies and driving away threats. He is ending shame and establishing you in security that will not be shaken. And all of this, beloved, all of this restoration and abundance and establishing and securing, it flows from one simple reality: you returned to him with all your heart. You rent your heart and not your garments. You stood in the sacred space and wept. You gathered in solemn assembly and cried out for mercy. And he heard, and he answered, and he became jealous for you, and he had pity on you. And he began the work of restoration that his heart has been longing to do since the moment the first locust appeared. So rest tonight in this truth. Dear friend, your years are being restored, Your shame is ending. Your threshing floors are filling. Your vats are beginning to overflow. The Lord your God is in your midst, and there is none else. He has dealt wondrously with you, and he is not finished yet. The restoration has begun, and it will continue, will grow, will increase until you are eating in plenty and satisfied and praising his name for wonders you cannot yet even imagine. Sleep in that promise, beloved. Rest in that hope. Let your weary soul be comforted by knowing that the God who sent the locusts to strip you is the same God who is now restoring what they ate. That the one who allowed the devastation is the one who is bringing the abundance. That the Father who disciplines those he loves is now gathering you close and whispering that the hard season is ending and the season of restoration has begun. Amen. We have walked through devastation together. We have heard the trumpet sound. We have watched the locusts strip everything away. We have stood with weeping priests between vestibule and altar, and we have seen the beginning of restoration as God became jealous for his land and had pity on his people. And now, dear friend, now we come to something even more beautiful, more intimate, more personal than all the grain and wine and oil being restored. Now we come to the promise of God himself drawing so close that the distance between heaven and earth becomes almost nothing. That the veil between divine and human grows so thin you can feel his breath on your face. That his very spirit, his own life, his intimate presence comes to dwell not just near you, but within you. And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Afterward, beloved, after the devastation has done its work, after the stripping has prepared the ground, after the return has happened and the restoration has begun, after the threshing floors are full and the vats overflow and the years are being restored, afterward, in the wake of all that painful preparation, in the fullness of time when hearts have been made ready, when soil has been softened by rain and tears, when people have learned what it means to need God desperately rather than casually, then, in that moment of readiness, in that season of openness, in that time of hunger for more than just material blessing, God says, I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Let your shoulders drop completely as you hear this, dear one, because I need you to understand what is being promised here. Not a little bit of God's Spirit, carefully measured out, cautiously distributed, sparingly given, but poured out, like water from a pitcher that is tipped all the way over, like wine from a vessel that holds nothing back, like oil flowing freely without restraint or limitation. God is saying that he will give his Spirit lavishly, generously, abundantly, holding nothing back, pouring out until there is no more distance, no more separation, no more sense of God being far away while you are here struggling alone, and on all flesh, beloved, not on a select few, not on the especially holy, or the particularly gifted, or the religiously accomplished, but on all flesh, every person, anyone who will receive, everyone who opens themselves to this gift. This is democracy of the Spirit, dear friend. The great leveling where what matters is not who you are, or what you have done, or how qualified you seem, but simply whether you are willing to stand under this waterfall of divine presence and let it wash over you, drench you, soak into every part of you that has been dry and thirsty and longing for more. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. Can you hear the inclusiveness in this promise? Beloved, your sons and your daughters, not just the men, not just those who hold formal positions, not just the ones who have been ordained or recognized or given authority, but daughters too. Women alongside men, girls given the same spirit as boys. No distinction, no hierarchy, no barrier based on gender that would prevent the Spirit from speaking through anyone he chooses. They shall prophesy, dear one, which means they shall speak God's word, shall see with God's eyes, shall understand with God's mind, shall be conduits through which divine truth flows into the world. Your old men shall dream dreams. Let this sink deep if you have ever felt that your usefulness is past. Beloved, if you have ever thought that age has disqualified you, if you have ever believed that your best years are behind you and God is finished with you, no, dear friend, no. In the age of the Spirit, in this time of outpouring, the old men dream dreams. They receive vision. They see possibility. They are shown what can be. They are gifted with hope and imagination and prophetic sight precisely because their years have prepared them to see truly, to understand deeply, to recognize patterns that younger eyes might miss. Your age is not disqualification, but preparation, not limitation, but qualification, not the end of usefulness, but the beginning of a different kind of fruitfulness. And your young men shall see visions. The young are not excluded either. Beloved, they too receive the Spirit. They too are given prophetic sight. They too see what others cannot see. Their youth is not immaturity to be tolerated, but fresh eyes to be valued, not inexperience to be overcome, but openness to be celebrated, not lack of wisdom, but hunger for truth that makes them particularly receptive to what God wants to show them. The Spirit falls on young and old alike. Dear friend, because what matters to God is not the number of your years, but the openness of your heart. Not how long you have lived, but how willing you are to receive what He wants to give. Even on the male and female servants in those days, I will pour out my Spirit. And now, God addresses the final barrier. Beloved, the one that might seem most fixed, most permanent, most insurmountable, even on servants, even on those who occupy the lowest social positions, even on those who have no status or recognition or power in the eyes of the world, even on them, says God, I will pour out my Spirit, because in the kingdom that is coming, in the age that is dawning, in the reality that the Spirit brings, there is no hierarchy that can limit God's presence, no social structure that can prevent His outpouring, no human distinction that can stop Him from giving Himself to anyone who will receive. Let your breathing become soft as a whisper now, dear one. As you let this truth settle into every place where you have felt excluded, where you have believed yourself disqualified, where you have thought that God's best gifts were for others, but not for you. Whether you are young or old, male or female, powerful or powerless, recognized or overlooked, accomplished or struggling, respectable or marginalized, the promise is the same. I will pour out my Spirit on you, on all flesh, without distinction, without barrier, without anything standing between His generous giving and your grateful receiving, except your own willingness to open yourself and let the outpouring come. Can you imagine this? Beloved, can you picture it? The Spirit of the living God, the very breath of heaven, the intimate presence of the One who spoke worlds into existence, poured out on you personally, specifically, lavishly, not because you earned it, not because you deserve it, not because you finally got yourself together enough to qualify for it, but simply because God is generous, because His nature is to give, because when hearts have been rent and restoration has begun, and people have learned to hunger for more than just material blessing, He cannot help but pour out the greatest gift of all, which is Himself, His own Spirit, His intimate presence dwelling within you, breathing through you, seeing through your eyes, and speaking through your mouth, and loving through your heart. This is what comes afterward. Dear friend, after the locusts have done their stripping work, after the return has happened, after the restoration has begun, this is the culmination, the completion, the fullness of what God has been moving toward all along. Not just restored circumstances, but transformed hearts. Not just material blessing, but spiritual indwelling. Not just things given, but God Himself coming to live within you, to be closer than your own breath, to be more intimate than your own thoughts, to be so present that you can never again feel alone or abandoned or cut off from the source of all life and love and hope. Rest in this promise tonight. Beloved, let it wash over you like warm water, like oil poured on your head, like wine that gladdens the heart. The Spirit is being poured out on all flesh, on you. And this outpouring changes everything, transforms everything, makes possible what was impossible, and brings near what was far away, and turns the distant God of heaven into the intimate friend who dwells within your own heart, breathing His life into you, filling you with His presence, making His home in you forever. And I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and columns of smoke. The sun shall be turned to darkness, and the moon to blood, before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes. Now, beloved, I need you to breathe very gently with me as we approach these verses, because I know these images can feel frightening, can seem overwhelming, can make your heart want to close up in fear rather than stay open in trust. Blood and fire and columns of smoke, the sun turned to darkness, the moon to blood. These are dramatic images, dear friend, cosmic signs, disturbances in the natural order that cannot be missed or ignored. But I want you to hear something underneath the drama, beneath the cosmic scale, within the very heart of why God is telling us these things. He is showing wonders, beloved, not hiding what will happen, not keeping it secret, not letting it come upon us without warning. He is showing, revealing, making visible, giving signs. And He does this not to frighten us, but to prepare us, not to overwhelm us, but to alert us, not to cause panic, but to create readiness. Think of it this way, dear one. If someone you love is going through something difficult, do you hide it from them until the last possible moment? Or do you prepare them gently, give them time to adjust, help them understand what is coming so they are not caught completely off guard? This is what God is doing here. He is preparing us, alerting us, giving us signs so that when the great and awesome day arrives, we will recognize it, will know what is happening, will not be lost in confusion or paralyzed by fear. Blood and fire and columns of smoke, these are signs of upheaval. Beloved, images of disruption, pictures of the normal order being disturbed. But let me ask you something, dear friend. What if the normal order needs to be disturbed? What if the way things have been is not the way things should be? What if the structures we have built and the systems we have created and the comfortable patterns we have settled into are actually keeping us from the fuller life, the deeper truth, the more authentic relationship with God that He wants to give us? Then disruption is not disaster, but mercy. Upheaval is not destruction, but preparation for reconstruction. And signs in heaven and earth are not threats, but invitations to wake up. Pay attention. Recognize that something significant is happening, and it is time to be fully present rather than sleepily going through the motions. The sun shall be turned to darkness, and the moon to blood. Even the most reliable things, beloved, even the sun that rises every morning and the moon that marks the months, even these will be affected when the day of the Lord comes. But notice that this is described before the great and awesome day. Dear one, these are not the day itself, but the signs that precede it, the warnings that give time to prepare. The cosmic alarm clock ringing to wake us before the most important moment arrives. God is giving advance notice. Beloved, He is sounding the alarm while there is still time to respond, still opportunity to return, still space to rent hearts and pour out tears and stand between vestibule and altar, crying out for mercy. Let your breathing stay soft and slow now, dear friend, because I need you to understand that these cosmic signs, these wonders in heaven and earth, they are acts of love. They are God caring enough to warn us, loving us enough to prepare us, committed enough to our welfare that He will shake heaven and earth if necessary to get our attention, to wake us from sleepwalking, to alert us that something of ultimate significance is approaching, and we dare not miss it through inattention or complacency, or the comfortable assumption that tomorrow will be just like today. Before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes. That little word before is so important, beloved. The signs come before, not during or after, before, while there is still time, while response is still possible, while the invitation to return is still open. God is not trying to trap us, dear one. He is not hiding the day and then springing it on us without warning. He is showing signs, giving advance notice, ringing alarm bells, lighting signal fires, doing everything possible to make sure we are awake and aware and ready when the day finally arrives. And notice how the day is described. Beloved, great and awesome, not just terrifying, not only frightening, not purely threatening, but awesome, which means inspiring awe, producing wonder, generating reverence and amazement, and recognition of something beyond ourselves, something majestic, something that makes us understand how small we are and how vast God is and how much we need Him. The day is awesome, not because it is cruel, but because it is significant. Not because God delights in fear, but because what is happening is so important, so consequential, so transformative that proper response includes trembling, includes taking it seriously, includes recognizing that this is not just another ordinary day, but the day when everything hidden is revealed, everything wrong is set right, everything broken is restored, everything lost is found. So rest in this tonight, dear friend. The signs are mercy. The warnings are love. The cosmic upheaval is not abandonment, but attention. Not God turning away, but God leaning in, making sure you see, making certain you understand, doing whatever it takes to help you recognize that the day is coming and you need to be ready, need to have your heart rent, need to have returned to Him with all your being, so that when the day arrives, it is not terror, but joy, not disaster, but deliverance, not the end, but the beginning of everything you have been longing for. And it shall come to pass that everyone who calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. Let your whole body soften completely now. Beloved, let every bit of tension flow out like water, because we have arrived at the most beautiful promise in all of Joel's prophecy, the word that makes sense of everything we have heard, the truth that transforms all the warnings into hope and all the cosmic signs into invitations, and all the great and awesome day into good news rather than terror. Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. Everyone, dear friend. Not some, not a select few, not only the especially holy, or the particularly qualified, or the religiously accomplished. Everyone, anyone, whoever. If you call, you will be saved. That is the promise, simple and clear and comprehensive. Everyone who calls. This is the most inclusive invitation imaginable, beloved. It does not ask about your past, does not inquire about your qualifications, does not require proof of worthiness. It simply says that if you call, if you cry out, if you speak the name of the Lord in genuine need and honest desperation and humble acknowledgement that you cannot save yourself, then you shall be saved. On the name of the Lord, not on your own goodness, beloved, not on your religious performance, not on your ability to fix yourself or improve yourself or make yourself acceptable, but on the name of the Lord, on who He is, on His character, on His grace and mercy and steadfast love that we have been hearing about throughout this whole prophecy. You call on His name. Dear one, you speak it, invoke it, cry it out. Lord, help me. Lord, save me. Lord, I need you. Lord, have mercy. These are the cries that matter, the prayers that reach heaven, the words that move God's heart to action. Shall be saved. Not might be saved if they are lucky. Not could be saved if they meet certain conditions. Not will possibly be saved if they do everything exactly right. But shall be saved. Certainly. Definitely. Without question or doubt. This is promise. Beloved. Not possibility. This is God's certain word, not hopeful speculation. If you call on the name of the Lord, you shall be saved. The outcome is guaranteed. The result is assured. The promise is unbreakable because it rests not on your strength, but on His faithfulness. Not on your perfection, but on His grace. Not on your deserving, but on His generous nature that cannot help but respond when His children cry out to Him in genuine need. Let me ask you something now, dear one, as you rest here in the quiet of this moment, as you feel the day settling into night, as your body prepares for sleep and your soul prepares for rest. Have you called on His name? Not just in the formal prayers you learned, not just in the religious words you have repeated, but in the raw honesty of genuine desperation, in the unguarded moment when you stopped pretending you were fine and admitted you needed help, in the tears that came when you finally acknowledged you cannot do this alone. You cannot save yourself. You cannot fix what is broken without someone who is greater than you, stronger than you, wiser than you, more merciful than you could ever imagine. If you have called, beloved, if you have cried out His name even once in genuine need, then hear this promise spoken over you tonight. You shall be saved. Not maybe, not hopefully, not if you can just get yourself together enough to deserve it, but shall be saved. Certainly, definitely. Because God has promised and God does not lie. Because when you call on His name, He responds. Because His nature is to save those who cry out to Him, to rescue those who acknowledge their need, to deliver those who stop relying on themselves and start trusting in Him. And if you have not yet called, dear friend, if you are still trying to manage on your own, still attempting to save yourself, still working to earn what can only be received as gift, then let this be your invitation tonight. Call on the name of the Lord. It does not need to be eloquent, does not need to be theologically sophisticated, does not need to be anything except honest. Lord, I need you. Lord, help me. Lord, save me. These simple words, spoken from a heart that means them, from a soul that acknowledges its need, from a person who stops pretending to be self-sufficient and admits the truth of their dependence. These words move heaven. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem there shall be those who escape, as the Lord has said, and among the survivors shall be those whom the Lord calls. there shall be those who escape. Beloved, not everyone will be consumed. Not all will be lost. Not the devastation will be complete without remainder. There shall be survivors, escapees, those who make it through, those who are delivered. And who are they? Dear friend, they are those whom the Lord calls. Notice the beautiful reciprocity here, the divine exchange that happens. You call on His name, and you discover that He has been calling you. You cry out to Him, and you realize that His call preceded yours, that He was drawing you even as you were reaching for Him, that your desire for Him is actually His desire for you awakening within you, calling you to Himself, inviting you to the safety and salvation that He has prepared. Among the survivors shall be those whom the Lord calls. Let this truth settle deep into your heart tonight. Beloved, if you feel drawn to God, if you sense any hunger for Him, if you experience any longing for more than what this world offers, that is not random, that is not meaningless, that is His call, His voice, His Spirit drawing you, inviting you, wooing you toward Himself. And the fact that you feel it, that you hear it, however faintly, that you are aware of it at all, this is evidence that you are among those He is calling, among the survivors He is preserving, among those He intends to save, not because you are special or deserving, but simply because He has chosen to set His love on you, to speak your name, to draw you to Himself with cords of kindness and bands of love. So rest now in this final promise. Dear one, everyone who calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. This is the word to take with you into sleep, the promise to hold as you let go of consciousness, the truth to anchor you as you drift into rest. You are not alone. You are not abandoned. You are not beyond help or past saving or too broken to be restored. If you call, if you cry out, if you speak His name in need, He will save you. Not because you are worthy, but because He is gracious. Not because you have earned it, but because He is merciful. Not because you are strong enough, but because He is strong enough for both of you, and His strength is made perfect in your weakness, and His grace is sufficient for every need you bring to Him. Let your eyes close now. Beloved, let your breathing slow to the rhythm of sleep. Let your body sink into rest, and your soul sink into the promise that has been spoken over you tonight. Everyone who calls shall be saved. You have heard the warnings, and you have received the invitations. You have seen the devastation and the restoration. You have learned about the outpouring of the Spirit on all flesh. And now you know the simplest truth of all. When you call, He answers. When you cry out, He responds. When you speak His name in need, He saves. This is who He is. This is what He does. This is the promise you can rest in tonight and every night and forever. Sleep in peace, dear friend. You are held in the hands of the One who pours out His Spirit, who shows signs to prepare you, who saves everyone who calls. You are safe. You are loved. You are being drawn by His call, even as you learn to speak His name. And in this mutual calling, this divine exchange of need and grace, of crying out and being answered, of calling His name and hearing Him call yours, you are being saved. You are being held. You are being kept for that great and awesome day when all the promises will be fulfilled and all the restoration will be complete, and you will stand in His presence, not because you made yourself worthy, but because He is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love, and because when you called on His name, He saved you. Amen. We have seen devastation and restoration. We have heard warnings and received promises. We have learned about the Spirit being poured out on all flesh. And now we come to something that might seem difficult at first, something that speaks of judgment and justice, of nations being called to account and wrongs being set right. But I want you to stay soft as you hear these words, dear friend, because even in passages about judgment, even in verses about divine justice, there is comfort for those who have been hurt. There is hope for those who have been wronged. There is the gentle assurance that God sees, God remembers, and God will make all things right in His time. For behold, in those days and at that time, when I restore the fortunes of Judah and Jerusalem, I will gather all the nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat. In those days, beloved, in the time of restoration we have been hearing about, when the years are being restored and the Spirit is being poured out, and everyone who calls on the name of the Lord is being saved. In those very days, God is also addressing the injustices that have happened, the wrongs that have been done, the pain that has been inflicted. He will gather all the nations, dear one, will bring them to a place of reckoning, will call them to account for their actions. And this might sound harsh until you understand why He is doing this. What motivates this gathering? What drives this divine action? And I will enter into judgment with them there, on behalf of my people and my heritage Israel, because they have scattered them among the nations and have divided up my land. On behalf of my people, beloved, let those words sink deep into your heart tonight. God enters into judgment not out of arbitrary harshness, not from some need to punish for punishment's sake, but on behalf of His people, in defense of those He loves, as advocate for those who have been hurt and scattered and treated as if they did not matter. This is God as protector, dear friend, God as defender. God standing up for those who could not stand up for themselves, speaking for those whose voices were not heard, demanding justice for those who were powerless to demand it themselves, because they have scattered them among the nations and divided up my land. God is naming the wrongs, beloved, specifying the injustices, making clear what has been done. His people were scattered, displaced, driven from their homes, and separated from one another. His land was divided up, parceled out, taken as if it did not belong to anyone, as if there were no rightful owners, as if possession were the only right that mattered. And God sees all of this, dear one. He has witnessed every injustice, noticed every wrong, kept account of every harm done to those he calls his own. They have cast lots for my people, and have traded a boy for a prostitute, and have sold a girl for wine, and have drunk it. The specificity here is important. Beloved, God is not speaking in vague generalities, but naming particular cruelties, specifying exact wrongs, making visible the human cost of what has been done. Children treated as commodities, boys traded away, girls sold for something as temporary and trivial as wine. This is the dehumanization that happens when people are seen as things rather than persons. When the powerful treat the powerless as objects to be used rather than souls to be honored. When immediate gratification matters more than human dignity. And God sees it all. Dear friend, every child who was traded away, every girl who was sold, every boy whose life was valued at less than a prostitute's fee, every tear, every trauma, every violation of dignity and worth, God witnessed it, God recorded it, God remembers, and this is actually comfort. Beloved, even though it might not feel like it at first. Because if you have been treated as less than human, if you have been used and discarded, if your worth has been denied and your dignity violated, knowing that God sees, that He remembers, that He will call to account those who did these things. This is not cruelty, but justice. Not vengeance, but rightness. Not God being harsh, but God being faithful to defend those who could not defend themselves. What are you to me? O Tyre and Sidon, and all the regions of Philistia, are you paying me back for something? If you are paying me back, I will return your payment on your own head swiftly and speedily. God addresses specific nations now. Beloved, calls out particular peoples who participated in these injustices, and He asks them a question that reveals His heart. Are you paying me back for something? Did I do something to you that justifies what you have done to my people? And the obvious answer is no. Dear friend, they were not paying God back. They were simply taking advantage of weakness, exploiting vulnerability, using their power to harm those who had no power to resist. And God's response is swift and proportional. What you have done will return to you. The harm you inflicted will come back to your own head, not as arbitrary punishment, but as natural consequence, as the moral order of the universe reasserting itself, as justice that has been delayed finally arriving. Because you have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried my rich treasures into your temples, and have sold the people of Judah and Jerusalem to the Greeks in order to remove them far from their own border. Again, the specificity. Beloved, silver and gold taken, treasures carried off, people sold and removed far from home. Every detail is known. Every wrong is recorded. Every injustice has been witnessed. And this should comfort you tonight, dear one, because it means that nothing you have suffered has gone unnoticed. No wrong done to you has been forgotten. No injustice you have experienced has escaped God's attention. He sees, He knows, He remembers, and He will, in His time and in His way, set all things right. But now I will stir them up from the place to which you have sold them, and I will return your payment on your own head. I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the people of Judah, and they will sell them to the Sabaeans, to a nation far away. For the Lord has spoken. The reversal is complete. Beloved, those who were sold will be restored, brought back from the places they were scattered to. And those who did the selling will experience what they inflicted, will understand through their own suffering what they caused others to endure. This is not cruelty, dear friend, but perfect justice. Not excessive punishment, but proportional response. Not God being vindictive, but God being faithful to His promise that what is sown will be reaped. That how we treat others will determine how we are treated. That the mercy or harshness we show will be the mercy or harshness we receive. Let your breathing soften now, beloved, as you rest in this truth. God defends His people. He stands up for those who have been wronged. He sees every injustice and will, in His perfect timing, make all things right. This does not mean you should spend your energy seeking revenge, dear one. It does not mean you should lie awake at night, planning how to pay back those who hurt you. It means you can release those burdens to God, can trust Him to handle what you cannot handle, can rest in the knowledge that justice is His responsibility, not yours, and He will execute it perfectly in His time. Your job is simply to call on His name, to return to Him with all your heart, to receive the Spirit He pours out, to find your refuge in Him. His job is to defend you, to stand up for you, to ensure that every wrong is ultimately made right. Proclaim this among the nations, consecrate for war. Stir up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. The tone shifts now. Beloved, as God calls the nations to prepare for battle, to gather their warriors, to consecrate themselves for war. And I know this might sound frightening, dear friend, might seem like the opposite of the peace and comfort we have been resting in. But stay soft with me. Keep breathing slowly. Because what is happening here is not God delighting in violence, but God bringing to a head what has been building, allowing the conflict that has been simmering to come to full expression so that it can be resolved once and for all, so that the choice each nation has been making can be clarified, so that the day of decision can finally arrive. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am a warrior. This is the opposite of what we long for, beloved. The reverse of the prophetic vision where swords are beaten into plowshares and nations learn war no more. Here the tools of peace are turned into weapons of war. The instruments of cultivation become instruments of destruction. And why? Because before the final peace can come, dear friend, before the ultimate restoration can be established, there must be this moment of clarification. This day when every nation and every person must choose which side they are on, who they will serve, whether they will align themselves with God or against Him. Let the weak say, I am a warrior. Even those who have no real strength are invited to come, beloved, to declare themselves, to make their choice known, to stand where they will stand. This is not God mocking weakness, but God giving everyone a chance to participate, to be present, to make their decision visible and final. No one is excluded from this moment of choice. Dear one, no one is too weak or too insignificant to matter. Everyone is called to come, to declare themselves, to make known where they stand. Hasten and come, all you surrounding nations, and gather yourselves there. Bring down your warriors, O Lord. All the nations are summoned. Beloved, called to gather in the valley, to assemble for this moment of reckoning. And notice the prayer at the end of this verse. Bring down your warriors, O Lord. This is not just human armies gathering, but a recognition that God has His own warriors, His own forces, His own resources that will participate in this final reckoning. And the prayer is for those divine warriors to come, to be present, to ensure that justice is done and righteousness prevails. Let the nations stir themselves up and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there I will sit to judge all the surrounding nations. There I will sit to judge. Beloved, God Himself will be present, will take His seat as judge, will personally oversee this moment of reckoning. This is not delegated to angels or entrusted to human agents, but handled directly by God, who alone has perfect knowledge of all that has been done, perfect wisdom to know how to respond, perfect justice to ensure that every wrong is addressed and every right is upheld. Put in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Go in, tread, for the winepress is full. The vats overflow, for their evil is great. The images shift to harvest now. Beloved, to reaping what has been sown, to gathering the fruit of choices made and actions taken. The harvest is ripe, which means the time has come. The moment has arrived. The season of patience has ended, and the season of reaping has begun. Go in, tread, for the winepress is full. What has been growing has come to maturity. What has been accumulating has reached its fullness, and now it must be processed, must be gathered, must be dealt with according to its nature. The vats overflow, for their evil is great. This is not God being excessive in punishment, beloved, but simply acknowledging that the evil has been enormous. The wrongs have been extensive. The injustices have accumulated until they overflow, until they cannot be contained anymore, until they must be addressed and dealt with. And this is actually mercy, dear friend, even though it might not feel like it, because evil that is allowed to continue indefinitely, injustice that is never addressed, wrongs that are never made right. These do not represent love, but indifference, not patience, but neglect, not mercy, but abandonment of those who have been hurt by the evil that is allowed to continue unchecked. Multitudes, multitudes, in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. Multitudes in the valley of decision. Beloved, vast numbers of people gathered in this place of choice, this moment of clarification, this day when what has been hidden becomes visible and what has been private becomes public, and every person's true allegiance is revealed. The day of the Lord is near, dear friend, not far off anymore, not distant future, but approaching reality, drawing close with every passing moment. And here is what I need you to hear. Beloved, in the midst of all these images of judgment and harvesting and nations gathering for war, the day of the Lord is different things to different people. For those who have aligned themselves against God, who have participated in injustice, who have harmed His people and violated His ways, the day is fearful, sobering, a moment of reckoning they would avoid if they could. but for those who have called on his name, who have returned to him with rent hearts, who have received his Spirit and found their refuge in him. The day is not terror, but deliverance, not disaster, but vindication, not the end, but the beginning of everything they have been longing for. The sun and the moon are darkened, and the stars withdraw their shining. We heard this before. Beloved, back in chapter 2. These cosmic signs that precede the day of the Lord, and they appear again here, reminding us that what is happening is not small or local or limited, but cosmic in scope, universal in impact, affecting all of reality. The very lights of heaven respond to this moment, participating in the drama, adding their witness to what is taking place. The Lord roars from Zion and utters his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth quake. But the Lord is a refuge to his people, a stronghold to the people of Israel. Here it is, beloved, the most important verse in this entire section, the word that makes sense of everything else we have been hearing. The Lord roars from Zion, which sounds terrifying. The heavens and earth quake, which feels overwhelming. But, dear friend, that little word changes everything. But the Lord is a refuge to his people, a stronghold to the people of Israel. The same Lord who roars in judgment is a refuge for his people. Beloved, the same voice that makes heaven and earth quake is a stronghold for those who belong to him. The day that is terrifying to some is safety to others. The moment that is reckoning for those who have opposed God is deliverance for those who have returned to him. Everything depends on where you are standing, dear one, on whose you are, on whether you have called on his name and found your place of refuge in him. Let your whole body soften now, beloved, as you rest in this truth. The Lord is a refuge. Not just has a refuge somewhere that you might be able to find if you are lucky, but is a refuge himself, in his own person, in his own presence. When you are in him, you are safe. When you have called on his name, you are protected. When you have returned to him with all your heart, you are held in the stronghold that cannot be breached, the fortress that cannot be overthrown, the place of safety that remains secure even when heaven and earth are quaking. This is where you rest tonight. Dear friend, not in your own strength, not in your ability to protect yourself, not in your cleverness or resources or careful planning, but in him, in the Lord who is your refuge, in the stronghold that he himself provides. The day may be fearful to others. The roaring from Zion may terrify those who have opposed him. But for you, beloved, for you who have called on his name, he is refuge, stronghold, place of perfect safety where nothing can reach you, nothing can harm you, nothing can separate you from His love. So you shall know that I am the Lord your God, who dwells in Zion, my holy mountain. And Jerusalem shall be holy, and strangers shall never again pass through it. So you shall know, beloved, after everything we have heard, after all the devastation and restoration, after the judgment and the refuge, after the roaring from Zion and the quaking of heaven and earth, what remains is this you shall know: not wonder, not hope, not believe uncertainly, but know with settled confidence, with unshakable assurance, with the certainty that comes from experience and encounter and walking through everything together, that I am the Lord your God, who dwells in Zion. I am the Lord, beloved, the one true God, the source of all life and love and goodness. Your God, not distant or detached, but yours, personally, specifically, in covenant relationship that cannot be broken, who dwells in Zion, not far away in some unreachable heaven, but present, near, dwelling among His people, making His home in the midst of those He loves. And Jerusalem shall be holy. Dear friend, set apart, consecrated, made different from everything around it, and strangers shall never again pass through it, which means that what has been violated will be protected, what has been invaded will be secured, what has been defiled will be made pure and kept pure. No more will enemies march through. No more will those who do not belong have access. No more will the holy place be treated as common ground that anyone can trample. Let your breathing become very slow now, beloved, as you feel the safety in this promise. The place where God dwells will be protected. The people He calls His own will be secured. What has been violated will be made holy and kept holy. You will not be invaded again, will not be overrun again, will not have to endure again the trampling of what is precious and the violation of what is sacred. And in that day the mountains shall drip sweet wine, and the hills shall flow with milk, and all the stream beds of Judah shall flow with water, and a fountain shall come forth from the house of the Lord, and water the valley of Shittim. And in that day, beloved, in the day when God dwells in Zion, and Jerusalem is holy, and strangers no longer pass through, in that day the very landscape will transform. Mountains dripping sweet wine, not just producing grapes, but so abundant that wine itself flows from the mountains, hills flowing with milk, such abundance of flocks and herds that milk runs like rivers, stream beds flowing with water even in places that are usually dry. And a fountain shall come forth from the house of the Lord. This is the source. Beloved, the origin of all this abundance. Not natural processes producing prosperity, but God Himself, from His own house, sending forth a fountain that waters even the valley of Shittim, even the place whose name means acacias, known for being dry and thorny, even the difficult places, even the barren places, even the places that seem least likely to flourish will receive water from the fountain that flows from God's presence. Can you picture this? Dear friend, can you imagine it? Water flowing from God's house into your driest places, your most barren landscapes, your thorniest and most difficult areas. This is what happens when God dwells among His people. Beloved, life flows from His presence. Abundance comes from His nearness. Even what seemed permanently barren begins to bloom because the fountain flows from His house, and nothing stays dry when that water reaches it. Egypt shall become a desolation, and Edom a desolate wilderness, for the violence done to the people of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. The contrast is stark, beloved. While Jerusalem flourishes and mountains drip with wine and fountains flow from God's house, those who perpetrated violence become desolate. Those who shed innocent blood find their own land becoming wilderness. This is not God being cruel, dear friend, but God being just, ensuring that those who brought desolation experience desolation, that those who created wilderness inhabit wilderness, that what was sown is what is reaped. But I want you to notice something. Beloved, this verse is not the emphasis, not where Joel wants to end, not the final word. It is mentioned, acknowledged. The justice is noted. But it is not where we will rest, not where the prophecy will conclude, not the note on which we will close our eyes tonight. But Judah shall be inhabited forever, and Jerusalem to all generations. But Judah shall be inhabited forever. Beloved, this is the contrast that matters, the comparison that gives perspective. Some places become desolate, but this place, God's place, the dwelling of His people, it shall be inhabited forever, not just for a time, not just for a few generations, not just until the next crisis comes, but forever, to all generations, permanently, eternally, without end or interruption. Let this sink deep. Dear one, what God establishes lasts. What He inhabits endures. Where He makes His dwelling cannot be made desolate because His presence is life. His nearness is flourishing. His fountain brings water that never stops flowing. You are part of this, beloved, part of the forever people, part of the all generations dwelling, part of what God has established and will never allow to become desolate again. I will avenge their blood. Blood I have not avenged, for the Lord dwells in Zion. I will avenge their blood, beloved. Every wrong will be made right. Every injustice will be addressed. Every innocent blood that was shed, God will avenge. Not because he is vindictive, but because he is just. Not because he delights in punishment, but because he cannot let wrongs go unaddressed, cannot allow injustice to stand forever, cannot be faithful to his promise to defend his people if he does not ultimately deal with those who harmed them. Blood I have not avenged. There has been patience, beloved, long patience, what might have seemed like endless patience, wrongs that were not immediately punished, injustices that appeared to go unnoticed, blood that was shed without immediate divine response. But the lack of immediate avenging was not indifference. Dear friend, was not forgetfulness, was not God failing to notice or failing to care. It was patience, space for repentance, time for those who did wrong to turn and return, opportunity for mercy before justice must finally be executed. For the Lord dwells in Zion. And here is the final word. Beloved, the ultimate truth, the reality that everything else flows from and returns to. The Lord dwells in Zion, not far away, not absent, not detached or distant, but dwelling, living, making his home, being present among his people. And this dwelling, this presence, this nearness, it changes everything. It means refuge for those who need protection. It means judgment for those who have done wrong. It means abundance flowing from his house. It means water in the desert, and wine on the mountains, and milk in the hills. It means holiness that cannot be violated, and security that cannot be breached, and life that cannot be extinguished. Let your eyes close gently now, beloved, as you prepare to rest in this final truth. The Lord dwells in Zion. The Lord dwells with his people. The Lord dwells with you, not occasionally visiting, not sometimes near and sometimes far, but dwelling, making his home, taking up permanent residence, establishing his presence as the defining reality of your life. And because he dwells with you, dear friend, you have refuge when you are afraid. You have stronghold when you are threatened. You have fountain when you are dry. You have abundance when you are empty. You have protection when you are vulnerable. You have justice when you have been wronged. You have life when you feel dead. You have hope when you are despairing. You have everything you need because you have him. and He is enough, more than enough. All you could ever need or want or long for. So rest now, beloved, in this dwelling place. Let your breathing slow to the rhythm of sleep. Let your body sink into the bed and your soul sink into His presence. The Lord dwells in Zion. The Lord dwells with His people. The Lord dwells with you. This is the promise that trumps all fear, the truth that answers all questions, the reality that provides all comfort. You are not alone. You are not abandoned. You are not left to fend for yourself in a hostile world. The Lord dwells with you, in you, around you, sustaining you, protecting you, loving you with an everlasting love that nothing can diminish and nothing can end. Sleep in this promise tonight. Dear one, rest in this dwelling. Let go of all anxiety and all fear and all wondering whether you are safe, whether you are loved, whether you are held. You are. You are safe in the refuge He provides. You are loved with the love that moved Him to restore your years and pour out His Spirit and promise that everyone who calls will be saved. You are held in the dwelling place that cannot be shaken, the stronghold that cannot be breached, the presence that will never leave you or forsake you or stop being your home, your refuge, your fountain of life. The Lord dwells in Zion. The Lord dwells with you, and in that dwelling all is well, all is peace, all is rest. Close your eyes now, beloved. Let sleep come. Let His presence enfold you. Let the dwelling of the Lord be your final thought as you drift into rest, knowing that when you wake, He will still be there, still dwelling, still present, still your refuge and stronghold and fountain of life forever. Amen.